Manchester United back 6-point clear in third position. Spurs kick off against Brighton in just over half an hour's time to see if they can respond. Brighton, of course, chasing for a top 4 place as well. But a brilliant performance from Manchester United. A 2-0 scoreline that really flatters Everton. There was a clinic today put on by Jordan Pickford in goal for the Toffees. Save after save after save from Antony, from Bruno, from Rashford. But Man United get the job done. The play was great. The domination of the game was absolutely excellent to see. Bruno dropped deep with Sabitzer ahead of him. Works best with the injury and suspensions we've had in midfield. Man of the match performance today from Bruno Fernandes. Christian Eriksen coming on was absolutely brilliant. Casemiro returning, and Man United get through this tough period where they had 4 games without Casemiro and, of course, no Christian Eriksen. They get through it with a win in the FA Cup, getting them through to the semis, and 2 wins from 3 in the Premier League to maintain their favourite stance of winning the top 4 race, of course, outside of the Arsenals and the Manchester Cities, to secure Champions League football again next year. The only sour note for the game is going to be Marcus Rashford, who went off with what appears to be a groin injury. I don't know how bad it looks. You can never really tell. Just through being a football fan, having watched for a while, it looks to me like maybe a 2 or 3 week injury. But it's the same part of his body that he hurt. If you go back and watch the Manchester derby, he held that same part after a run there. So maybe he's been holding on to this injury now for that entire period. It's been a necessity to play him as the Sanchos of this world get themselves back to full fitness. Weghorst, of course, not being at the races. Martial having been out for so long. Rashford has been overplayed in this period. It's been a necessity for Erik ten Hag to do that. So as much as I don't want to see him rested, we've got a big game against Sevilla, away at Nottingham Forest next weekend. Maybe now is the right time for him to sit on the sidelines, recuperate a little bit, regain a little bit of energy. There's a lot of fatigue in Marcus Rashford when you watch him play. And Man United fans should be proud of that from the perspective of he's done that for us. He has sacrificed his body again for us. Martial had been fit. If we had a top-class striker, if Sancho had been firing an informal year, there would have been more rotation. He probably wouldn't be in this situation. So I understand the Rashford situation. That's the only kind of sour note of today. But Man United were brilliant. It's as simple and as straightforward as that. There were frustrating moments with the abundance of chances going begging. There was some real. There weren't ever a moment in the game where I felt Man United were going to lose it. Never at all. But you just sometimes get in your head, if we don't finish these chances, how are we going to get through this game? Pickford's was having a performance where he would have walked away with the Man of the Match trophy if Everton walked away with a draw. But there was a question answered today, and it's in conjunction with the Rashford injury. What happens when Rashford doesn't score? Well, we had another example of it today. McTomiany stepped up with a goal because of a brilliant pass from Jadon Sancho. Martial comes back into the team and grabs a goal. We know Bruno can score. On another day, Antony would probably have had 2 today. There are more goals out there. But in the summer, Man United need to go and get another prolific goal scorer. We need more players that can, essentially, people don't like. I heard someone the other day, I don't remember who it was. I think it was Johnny said, GA doesn't move me. GA means nothing to me. Without GA, we don't win today. GA is what wins you the game at the end of the day. GA is needed. It is probably, along with clean sheets, the most essential part of football. In fact, it's more essential than a clean sheet because you could get a clean sheet in every game, but if you don't score, you don't win. It's essential. And it was great to see other players step up today and almost take that burden away from Rashford, although he did create one of the goals and gave himself an assist. But look, I was proud today. I was very, very proud of Man United. Bruno Fernandes' performance, standout for me. Absolute standout. He's not a holding midfield player. He can play in the 8, he can play box to box because he works hard, he can track, he can tackle. But he's not a holding midfield player, in my opinion. For me, I want him where Sabitzer was today, with a lot less responsibility from a defensive point of view, creating, crossing balls into the box, threading those passes that break lines, or what the Bruno haters call spamming balls. I don't really care what definition you use. It creates chances. That is where he's at his best. But the trust and faith that Eric Ten Hag has in Bruno Fernandes is exemplary. He's played 10, he's played right, he's played left, he's put him into that holding midfield role. With Casemiro and Christian Eriksen out, the midfield has been weak for a long time. Now, Bruno has performed in the last 2 games at home without a proper DM next to him, and he has done absolutely fantastically. Today, some of those long balls that broke those lines were out of this world. Some of these passes in between the lines was exceptional. His reading of the game, his decision-making, very, very impressive from Bruno Fernandes today. Playing in his 4th position of the season, in my opinion, playing in one of his weaker positions, but still stepped up. There's a lot of discourse amongst Man United fans weeks back that maybe the manager don't trust him. That's why he's been moved out to the right and to the left and deeper. In my opinion, that's intellectually dishonest. The reason that he's been moved into that role and Sabitzer is put further forward is because he trusts Bruno Fernandes more. Sabitzer's come into the midfield and played in that double pivot on a couple of occasions, and he's just looked a bit weak, a bit off the pace because it's not his role. Bruno's playing out of position, but he's able to up his game to another level. And yet, very, very impressed with Bruno Fernandes today, the rightful man of the match that was awarded to him. And the good thing is, Eriksen's back, Casemiro's back. He can go back to his more natural position. And with Antony looking dangerous, although not scoring, Sancho looking brilliant today, I'm really excited about the idea of Bruno Fernandes for the first time in months, not just going back to his natural position, but going back to his natural position with quality around him, a base and foundation behind him so that he doesn't have to worry about losing the ball. The reason that Bruno Fernandes is criticized more than KDB is for one reason and one reason only. KDB will lose the ball in a game as regularly as Bruno Fernandes. That is a eye test fact, and that is a statistical fact. It cannot be disputed. Your opinion means nothing because it's true. The difference is that City's system is so brilliant, the quality of player behind him is so supreme that the team wins the ball back very, very quickly after he gives it away. Therefore, the loss of possession doesn't impact Manchester City as negatively as it does Manchester United. Once Man United have completely built a team in Ten Hag's ideology, Bruno Fernandes giving the ball away 15 to 20 times per game in an attacking role will not damage us as much as it did in the Oli era, as an example. And people will stop over-indexing it so much. So I'm very excited for Bruno Fernandes to see him move back into his more natural position. And now's going to be the time for Martial. We need to, how's his body going to last? Because Rashford's going to miss some games. There's no way he's walking off with that injury and playing in the next. There's no way he's back Thursday. There's no way he's back, in my opinion, next weekend. It's a huge blow. Time for Martial to step up. Jadon Sancho, repeat this performance again. What we saw today from Jadon Sancho was a proper performance. One of his best in a Man United shirt. We need more of the same. Antony, the same, to be fair. I thought he was really good. He just didn't finish his dinner today. And the irony is he'll get called a bad player today because he hasn't got GA. But when he was having GA and not performances, he was a bad player. There's a very good player in there. He just needs to merge those two things together. That's why I'm not writing him off yet. There is some quality in there. Another clean sheet for David De Gea today. There would have been a very interesting conversation today had Antony scored and David De Gea got an assist. Everyone knows my views. I think David De Gea, in terms of shot stopping, I still think he's the best in the world. I genuinely believe that. Or one of the best. His distribution in 2023 isn't good enough. Of course, there is some of his passes and some of his balls he plays out are brilliant, but it's the consistency of that delivery that needs to improve when you want to play out from the back. And goalkeepers have to be press resistant nowadays. And he isn't. And that's not me having a dig. I think I'm being genuinely honest. But he had another good game today. Joint top. It's mad to think Man United have got the joint most amount of clean sheets this season in the Premier League, considering our goal difference. It's been a really weird year for Manchester United in terms of that. But look, I'm a very, very happy Man United fan today. We get to enjoy the weekend's football. I get to enjoy, in my opinion, one of the GOATs in Idra Adesanya going up against one of the GOATs of my old sport, kickboxing, in Alex Pereira. Two fighters that I've watched listen, a lot of people have jumped on the UFC bandwagon of late, but I've been watching these two since they were literally doing sort of proper kickboxing. I used to be a K1 guy myself. So these guys are, when I say K1 guy, I never thought of K1. I wasn't good enough, but that's my sport. That's what I was in. I want to specify. I was a good kickboxer. I weren't at these men's level. That's why I'm sitting here doing this and not earning millions of pounds a year, wrapping my shin bone around someone's temple. I wish I was, though, because fighting is just it. But yes, I'll be able to watch that tonight with my team having picked up 3 points, buzzing. And a lot of people saying, "Go easy." Listen, I don't care who wins a fight. I literally don't. I very rarely. It's a bit like when Conor McGregor fights Chandler. I love both, so I'm just like, go for it. Same with Leon Osman and Leon Edwards when he fought Usman. Didn't care who wins, even though one's British. Kind of sided with the Brit a little bit more, but I love them both. But anyway, we digress. We digress massively here. Super chat says, I don't know what's worse, Everton or United, only managing those 2 goals on them. Doug, really good point. Man United need to add more clinical edge to their team. We've had a lot of games this season where our play was good enough to win the game 3-4, 5-0. The difference between us and a Manchester City is they've just got more killers. They've got more clinical edge. That is something that I don't think will be trained. Anthony will get a bit better. Sancho needs to improve, but it will be purchased. Man United will purchase that killer edge. You throw in a Harry Kane into today's team, we win by 2 more goals. It's just a fact for me. Like I'm not even. Yeah, it's not even debatable. Bruno Fernandes, man of the match. Also, shout out AWB and Sabitzer. Yeah, both were brilliant today. Both were brilliant today. And I think for me, I was really impressed with AWB again, other than his missed chance, and he did get stick. But again, you saw the agendas, like agenda online. Oh, he's better than Delo, is he? Defensively, yes. And I stand by what I've said for 4 years on here. If you're a defender, and I don't care how good you are on the ball, how good you are at passing, how good you are at crossing, how good you are at free kicks. If you can't defend, I have a problem with you. Football basics. Defenders have to be able to defend. Goalkeepers have to be able to save shots. And attacking players have to create and or score goals. Midfielders have to be able to control the play. Like, that's the basics of your jobs. Imagine you can't do that. Imagine you can't do a goalie that can't save shots. A brilliant striker that doesn't score goals. A brilliant winger that doesn't score or assist. A brilliant can that doesn't score or assist. A brilliant DM that doesn't hold the play and break it down. I don't know what's happened to football fans. Legitimately, it's like being a doctor that doesn't know how to save lives. It's crazy. A dentist who knows fuck all about teeth. Honestly, I find it that honestly, I blame the fathers. I've always said I blame the dads. They're just either not that. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. I don't know what's wrong with these fathers. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, you have to be able to do your basics right. You have to be able to do your basics right. And if they're not there, I don't really care about the rest of it. Do you know what I'm saying? That's what happened in the 90s with music. We went away from proper artists and it was all about lip syncing and how people looked as opposed to the substance of them as an artist. And that's why they're all brokies now doing nothing, probably barring the Spice Girls. But they were so famous. The rest of them, from all those pop bands, literally, you see, they're all brokies. They don't do anything. No talent, but they looked right. Do you know what I'm saying? Look at music artists now. Ed Sheeran ain't broke. Why? Because he writes and arranges all his own music. Because he's talented. He has the basics of a musician. They don't care that he's not particularly good looking and very ginger. But if Ed Sheeran was born in the late 80s and he was a 90s pop star, he wouldn't have made it. He wouldn't have done. Didn't have the look. If he'd have looked like Peter Andre, though, he'd be fine. And that's what a lot of football fans are like nowadays. Like, oh, how does someone look? Are they a baller? And I got told off today for being 37 and using the word baller. I'm like, bruv, my generation invented that word, you morons. But you also older people watching. The younger generations are debating you and they throw your age at you. That means you've won the argument. Remember, when people turn to insults, you've won. Simple and as straightforward as that. Josh here says, look at our subs today. A lot of games coming up. Our attackers will have to step up for Rashford. I hope he is going to be okay. We have options to win a game. We do. And Casemiro's coming back, which is massive. Do you know what's ironic today? I think if Weghorst was playing today, he has scored. I don't know why. I just feel, Weghorst a bag of goals today with the way we were dominating. But yeah, there we go. I'm bringing a panel in a minute, people. I've got a few more super chats to do here. David De Gea, Golden Gov, Guan Dave. Listen, can you imagine it after the stick he gets? Bruno Fernandes, man of the match. Shout out. Sorry, I've already done that one there from Steve. Akil says, as a rival, I will maintain they will finish top 3. And I'm going to point that out as well. Where the is Egal? After we got beat by Liverpool, you're going to fade away, Terry. You're going to fall away. They're going to overtake you. The over-indexing is mad. Ignoring our home record that's only bettered by Man City and Arsenal by a point each, respectively. United, we're never going to fall away. We had a bad run. Last 2 games have been brilliant. Not as clinical as I would like. We're okay. And we've got our main 2 midfielders back now. Happy days. Joshua here says, in terms of creating chances, link play, winning the ball back, defensive mindset, this was our best performance. If it was not for Pickford, this would have been 5 or 6. Agree? I completely agree with you. Need a finisher, but I'm happy. And this is where Man United fans have to relax and be sensible. Man United are still 7 months into their rebuild. And I know the manager was announced around this time last year, but he didn't come in and start training the team until July. So he can't do anything before July. So that would put us, what, 7 months in? 5, 6, 8 months, 7, 8 months. And we are where we are. We can see what we're trying to do. Everyone says, I don't understand Ten Hag's ideology. Everybody wants a buzzword for it. Everybody wants a buzzword for how we're playing football. And if Man United fans can create a buzzword, suddenly everybody will say, oh, I can see your style of play now. I can see it. I can fucking see it. But if it hasn't got a name, no one knows. Like, people need it basic. Today is how he'll want to play, but with better players. Bossing the ball, very good movement, good 1-touch, 2-touch football, working the ball into the box and scoring goals. That's it. That's the ideology. It's not rocket science. But what's going to happen is someone who's very good with words, someone who's very good linguistically, is going to turn around and use a word to kind of summarize it. And then everybody's going to be like, oh, actually, yeah, I see what you mean now. And I heard a word used yesterday. It's completely not related to football. But there's a word called affectation. And that's what's happened to football. Affectation. And affectation means, I heard this word for the first time the other day. And it means behavior, speech, or writing that is pretentious and designed to impress. And that's what's happened to football when football fans say, what's Ten Hag's style of play? They want a word or a little sentence that summarizes it in a way where it sounds cool and quirky and sexy. But it just means holding on to possession, working the ball into the box and scoring goals. That's his style of play. What you saw today. I don't know what you call it. Maybe it's already got a name and I'm unfamiliar with it, but we can all see it. Do you know what I mean? Like we hear things now like, I need my team to create more numerical advantages on the left-hand flank. What you mean, create more 1 or 2-on-1s? Like, it's the same stuff, but we're changing the language. And there's no issue with changing the language. But football is a simple game. If you can't explain it in a simple way, you don't understand it. That's it. No matter how verbose or exquisite your vernacular is, you see what I did there? That's called irony. If you can't explain it in a basic way, to maintain possession, to win it back quickly, to work the ball into the box, sometimes quickly, with 1-touch, 2-touch passing, sometimes you've got to be patient and wait for a team to make a mistake. That's all he's doing. I don't know what word to use. I don't know what word summarizes that, but today's what he wants to do. And the better the squad gets over the coming years, the more you will see of this. Let's have a little listen here. The reason why Bruno is played out of position is because the manager trusts him to perform in any role and he needs Bruno on the pitch. Exactly. And you don't have to be Bruno's biggest fan to admit that you were wrong about him. And when I say wrong about him, a lot of baller fans said there was no chance he was going to get this amount of game time under Erik Ten Hag. Ten Hag would phase him out. This guy is going to be part of Erik Ten Hag's teams today, tomorrow, next week, next year. And he's going to be part of the Man United teams that go on to win major trophies. League Cups, FA Cups, Europas, yes. But this Man United team with new owners, with Erik Ten Hag, is going to win a Premier League and is going to win a Champions League. I believe it to my core. This is how good this team will become. This is how good this team will become. And Bruno Fernandes, along with Marcus Rashford and Lissandro, Casemiro, to name a few, will be very much part of that. So get on board, Man United fans, if you're not already. That isn't changing. Time for the panel now, people. Hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribing. Of course, click on the link in our live comment section or in the description below, or scan that beautiful QR code on the screen. I want to say we were up to number 33 in the UK yesterday for podcasts. Number 3 in the chart. Number 33 in the charts. And we were ahead of some huge conglomerate companies and, of course, behind many, many other great podcasts. But to be number 33 in the UK. And by the way, I want to big up all my viewers in Trinidad and Tobago and in Ghana. We were number 1 for sports podcasts in that country. By the way, it's 33 in sports podcasts, not overall podcasts. But very, very proud. Make sure you download it. Set it up on auto download as well so you don't miss any episodes. Time for my brilliant panel. Let's go. Welcome back, boys. Man like Sunshine, Staffy's here, and Paul is with us. Sunshine, I want to go to you first. An important win for us today. Talk to me about the performance.
For me, that's probably our best performance since we've had a bit of a rut, if I'm being honest. I couldn't fault any player today, and I'm not too sure they'll get their props today, but I think it's more beneficial coming from myself, given the fact I've given this guy a torrid time. But Harry Maguire today, you hear it here live, I will go in on the guy because I never thought he was competent. I thought he was incompetent under pressure, slow on the ball. Today, his decision-making, the one-on-one defending. Of course, he didn't get the ball, but he shielded off the player from the ball and took him out the way of the front of goal. We got obviously get the goal kick from that. And then, of course, the one-on-one moments when we're kind of under pressure, he's got to take a touch and get it out. Like, he just looked competent today. And I've never had an issue with any centre-back that shows me competence under pressure. Because for me, that's what I grew up with. So big props to Maguire today on that. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, just immaculate. And I know I heard you talking about Diego Dalot before in terms of going forward. If we've been objective of this season, I don't think Dalot has improved his defensive attributes as much as Bissaka's improved his attributes going forward. I think what we've seen today, we've seen a myriad of different attacking kind of situations, shall we say, in this game where Bissaka, for me, is showing the 1-2 link up. He's showing how he can shield a man off and still roll the ball over. When he actually fizzes a ball in, it's like quite accurate with the pace, confident. His movement off the ball, he's not second guessing. He's even got a little turn and shimmy in him now. Like, this guy is better than Dalot this season. And you myriad that with the defensive attributes he's got. And he also brings those defensive attributes further up the field now because of his confidence of winning it back. For me, we've got a right back now that, I'll be honest, if it's based on the most improved player, by the end of the season, if he carries on with this, for me, he has to get, ultimately has to get a couple of shouts for player of the season or players player of the season or fans player of the season, because he's just showing another level. And it's amazing to see. We should have scored more today. Most definitely should have. But performance-wise, given the fact Casemiro's coming back, Eriksen's coming back, Sancho looked confident today. He had that bit of that cage style football about him today, where he grew up and got his roots from. For me, everyone was ticking on all cylinders today. So yeah, big performance, big 3 points. I know 2 goals. We need more on the goals front, but I think that's the least of our worries if we can keep performing like this, and we've got players to come back into this team.
Completely agree, and I think I didn't mention him in my bit, and I'm glad you did with Maguire, because he did have a solid game today. There's 2 good things. 1, it means we win the game. 2, it helps gets that price up a little bit because he's going to be sold. So I want him. This is the thing. I want him to do well because we might get some of that £80 million back. Maybe only 30, maybe only 40, but every penny helps in terms of reinvesting into the squad. Staffy, an important win, as you say. Eriksen and Casemiro returning. But talk to me about Bruno Fernandes today and the performance that he put in that deep line role.
First half, he was very good. We can talk about how many chances he created. Was it for Anthony? Besides that one that the head played, most of these chances came from that deep line role that he was playing. Threw in like a couple balls for Anthony. He should have finished those, honestly. We easily could have been up like 3-4 in the first half, if we're being honest. There's a couple balls that he played for, for Rashford also. It's a little bit ahead of him. I enjoyed him more in the second half, believe it or not, because I feel like in the second half he was more tidy. He was doing more of what I like in a midfielder, where you're controlling the game more. You don't need to spam the ball. I know, Terry, you said that you don't like that word, but he was doing a lot of that in the first half, which was working in our favor, which is why I said we should have been up like
What
like
word don't I like?
3-4.
Sorry, what word don't I like?
Spamming, like when you say like, oh, like Bruno's a ball spammer.
The only reason I don't like it is because people use it as a way. It's a weird word to use to discredit amazing long balls. Because when Paul Scholes was doing those diagonal balls for
I
two
get it.
decades, they were called brilliant. Bruno does it, and he's a spammer. I'm just not a fan of the way it's used to discredit, but that's what he does. But he's brilliant at it. Yeah, sorry, go on, continue. Sorry.
No, I understand you, but he did it well in the first half. As I said, we could have, if we were up 3-4-0 in the first half, no one would have been talking about spamming, you know. Second half, as I said, I enjoyed what he did in the second half. I felt like he kept the ball neat. He was making all the right passes, didn't take too many risks. Clearly, it wasn't our day in terms of finishing because we were only up 1-0. When you're up 1-0 and you had 21, what is it? We had 21 shots in the first half and you scored one of them. Clearly, this is not a creation issue. You had enough creators on the pitch. Sancho as well was creating enough chances. He got the assist. I didn't even need Sancho to get that assist to tell you that he had an amazing game. So I can't really blame anyone for the scoreline other than the finishers. Anthony, in my opinion, kind of had more of a poor game. It just showed that he's not a transition player. I don't know if you guys thought the same. This is the first time where he's exposed to so many one-on-ones and so many long balls. Like if you put Rashford on that right-hand side in the first half instead of Anthony, I think we easily score like 2-3 more goals than we did. But overall, good performance. It was more about the result. 10. What is it now? There's 9 games left for the season to be over. It's more of a results business right now than performances. When the summer comes in, we'll talk about performances and improving the team and the style of play. Right now, I'm really not interested in that. I'm interested in going into every game, getting the 3 points and getting out.
I get that. The comment here that says Bruno at 8 thoughts. We've got Ivory and Spice. A 10, or do you want to see him go back to the 10 when Casemiro and Eriksen return, or do you want to say Bruno Fernandes stay deep? You're on mute, by the way, bro.
Sorry.
There you go. I've unmuted.
Thank you. In my opinion, with that question that you just said there, when Casemiro and Eriksen return into that midfield to play the double pivot, I would prefer Bruno in a number 10 for that situation. But as of now, I'm enjoying what he's doing in a number 8 position, getting himself stuck in. We all see Bruno. He works as his socks off all the time for the team. You know what? And of course, Terry, I know you don't like that word, that spamming word, but in that number 10 position, he gives the ball away so many times. But he's far better when he has Casemiro for security and Eriksen feeding him the balls, and he's much more instrumental. So I enjoy Bruno in number 10 position when those two are back. But at the current moment, for what he's doing right now with the current midfield that we have, he's done well today. I've seen him today. He's been moved up into the right wing as well to just help the Manchester United attack. But Bruno is Bruno. He'll do what he has to do. He's a maverick. And as much as I can criticize him as much as he can, he's done well. And today he had an excellent game in midfield. In the second half, it was a bit different. But in that first 45 minutes, Bruno was always involved in the attacking phases as well, the interception plays as well. He got himself stuck in. So I enjoyed that. But to answer your question, yeah, I would prefer him in a number 10 position when Casemiro and Eriksen return in that midfield, because then the creativity will be far better.
Yeah, I agree. Look, I think he does lose the ball, but so does KDB. So do most top creators. I looked at Jack Grealish was amazing against Liverpool last week. But in that game, he lost the ball more in that game than any other game this season for City. Why? Because he was actually trying to create and break lines and create chances. And I think there's been an obsession with Bruno Fernandes and losing the ball. But yet we kind of, as football fans, ignore that most top players are doing it. And a lot of the time he's losing balls are through shots or through crosses or passes that are just missing out. There was one today that he played into Jadon Sancho, who mistimed his run. Officially, that's Bruno losing the ball, but that's not his fault. There was another time where he passed the ball inside to Scott McTominay, who didn't anticipate it right, and we lost possession. So that's just off the top of my head. That's 2 times we lost the ball today via Bruno that statistically make him look bad, but it wasn't his fault. And I think there's just sometimes an over-indexing of that. For me, I think he's been okay at 8. I just love him in that number 10 role. And me and Adam kind of had a disagreement on Wednesday when I said that I think Bruno's more of a creator. Like, he's a creator and a goal scorer, and I think you need that. You know, you put him with an elite number 9 in front of him with a combination of Rashford, Sancho, Anthony Martial either side. That's dangerous. You know, we just need to add more goals to this team. Paul's here with us as well. What did you make of today, my friend?
I think we're just seeing what Ten Hag wants to do with the team today. Everton allowed us to play our game. The possession-based, recycling the ball, winning the ball high up the pitch. You see what Sancho, when you're actually playing possession football with Sancho, he's a lot better when the team's recycling the ball. He's not having to do more running in behind on the high, as our outlet was Anthony. Scott McTomiany even looked really good. I don't know if anybody wants to rewatch the game, but just watch some of the runs he was making in space he was creating in that final third. He's never been a 6, but you put him in that area, he'll make runs, he'll create chances, he'll create space. And to be honest, 21 goals against a Sean Dyche team in the first, or 21 shots, sorry, against Sean Dyche's team in the first half is actually quite a good performance. We just need to finish a lot more. Anthony should have at least got 2 goals, but it was still a good performance by him.
Yeah, no, listen, I agree with that. And McTominay, he what he did in these last 2 Premier League games, he does what he does every year. He had these obligatory back-to-back top performances, and we really needed that from him because we had no Casemiro, no Eriksen, and look, I think he's another player that is probably going to leave at the end of the season. And we'll look to bring in better than him. And that's why I think United fans have got to stop panicking at not finishing games off or not quite being at our best, especially away from home. The Maguires that we saw today, Weghorst that came on, McTominay, those players are just not going to be here moving forward. And I don't know about you four, but I certainly trust Erik ten Hag to buy better. Jadon Sancho. I put out a tweet a moment ago because I went and looked at the stats while you gentlemen were talking. 6 from Bruno Fernandes, 5 from Jadon Sancho, 11 chances created between the two of them today. Staffy, one of the best performances I've seen from Sancho. What did you make of him out there?
Listen, I don't remember a performance arguably better than this one. Maybe I have a short-term memory, but today was definitely one of the best performances that Sancho's given us in a United shirt. The one thing that stood out for me, which I needed to see because I'm a big Sancho fan, but I was starting to have doubts. He was starting to give me like Pogba vibes where like, maybe this league is not really for him. He's a very good footballer, but he's not able to do it in Man United shirt. What I really liked today was his play on the transition. We know he's good at the ball to feet. He likes to get the ball to his feet, recycle the ball, pass and move, all these give and goes. We know his game. What he showed us today that was different was all the runs in behind that he was making, which the gentleman on the bottom right just mentioned. He actually did a lot of that today. And I don't remember Sancho doing a lot of these, like creating these chances by running behind the back on defenders like he's done today. I feel like this is the first time where I've seen him play with a lot of intensity, a lot of speed. It's different than his usual game. His game is not really about speed and intensity and making all these runs, but there was a few chances in the beginning of the game where he did that. This is why I didn't even talk about his assist, because like that assist that he had was very good, but it's something I expect from him. So like that's not outside of his game. What I really was happy about today to see the intensity that he brought. There's so many games where we just looked at him, even when he comes on for the last 20 minutes and he's not running enough. He's not putting enough pressure on defense. He's not running in behind. He's not really asking for the ball enough. Today he did all that and he played about 77 minutes, maybe a little bit less. So for me to see that change in his game today made me very happy. He was my man of the match. I know, like, if Bruno officially won it, I understand if he did, but Bruno did what he usually does anyways. I was just very happy to see the difference that Sancho brought in today's game. It made me comfortable. Now, I mean, unfortunately, now Rashford is injured. I was looking forward to, seeing more of Sancho being that good with the current form that Rashford has been on this season. So now this is a new bummer, but maybe going forward now, if Rashford misses out for 2-3 weeks, maybe we can rely on Sancho. Hopefully he can keep this form, but I was very, very happy with what I saw.
I agree with a lot of what you said there, and there's a few comments saying that Sancho's put in other good performances. He has, but what he did today was a good performance. He kept the shape. One of the things I've always defended Anthony on is, as much as Anthony's got to become more clinical in terms of creation, and scoring, he keeps his shape, he works hard, he supports defensively, and that element is invaluable to a team. And Sancho's doing more of that. But he added an assist. That Sunshine, like your point of view, mate. I know you're someone that likes Jadon Sancho. For him to stay at Man United, there needs to be far more performances like today. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. I love the player profile and I love what he's about. But there are question marks that you can't deny, regardless of whether you like it or not. You can't deny these things. But I think the thing for me, Terry, like we spoke about before, is I do pay a lot of attention to his personal situation and understanding and having some empathy for him in terms of where he's coming back from. I understand that there is a certain process, and I can never judge anybody, any person in this world if they're not there 100%. I can make judgments, but I can never totally say they've given me 100% of themselves. And there are factors that go into that I have to be patient with to then give them a big rating and go, he's not good enough, this. It's okay to say he's not good enough right now, but when you ask why and what's gone into that, there are some factors like his mental health that I have to put to one side and say, okay, you need some time to get into this team. So I will criticize you honestly. I will praise you honestly, but I won't put a nail in the coffin until I feel that Ten Hag saying, right, okay, I'm now going to put that pressure on you to perform, because you will have to elevate. You will have to come back from your trials and tribulations, and you are going to have to put a performance in. And I think that's the only fairest way I can see Sancho. Today's performance for me as a whole was one of his best that we've seen, and I think it's been coming. I think it massively helps that when the structure is right, and similar to with Bruno, what you were saying in terms of just being able to have that support behind him in a sense of what KDB has. I think Sancho was one of those types of players. If the unit is working and he's only got to focus on the high aspects of his game, of course, occasionally you're going to want him to track. Of course, you're occasionally going to want him to get stuck in. There's going to be moments where the ball may be 50-50 and you want him to put his foot in. You're going to have those small isolated moments. But in general, when you see what Sancho brings and you see what he was capable of today, the more he does more of that, the more I see him being more comfortable and confident in his own skin to put that red shirt on and play. But it's about being able to have a team that can facilitate that, in my honest opinion. And I think he can only grow from that. The talent of the kid is unbelievable. Unbelievable. I'm not a big stats man because I always find holes within stats. I feel it's surface level. However, I do appreciate him to a level. And when we got him at Dortmund, he was like neck and neck with Messi for goals and assists in Europe at some point. And I'm just thinking that talent can't be washed away just because of a few bad performances. And of course, he's coming from something quite traumatic in the mental health aspects. There has to be an element, for me anyway, has to be an element of patience while still at least giving honest criticism and fair criticism. So if he's had a poor game, say he's had a poor game, no problem. But don't put nails in the coffin for me. Anyway, I'm not going to put a nail in the coffin to say he's done, he's out here, when there are some factors that he needs to overcome first. He's on the right trajectory, in my opinion. Today's performance shows that. I feel like he can have more of those. I think he needs more support from the fan base at this moment in time before we start adding that extra pressure, like what we do to, for example, Bruno or Rashford, etc. Because that's where they are in their career. So I'm happy with Sancho today. I think solid 8 out of 10 given the circumstances and putting things into perspective. But I want more from him. I definitely want more from him, and I will be as honest as I can say when judging him. If he isn't having a good game, we'll judge the 90 minutes. But I'm just not putting nails in coffins at this stage right now. I just don't think it's fair to do so.
Mate, I understand that, and I think that Sancho joined just as everything collapsed with Oli. We had Ralph, and this year started, and he's had problems. And of course, rivals don't want to give him any time. They want you to, a little bit like with Anthony. I sort of tweeted, "Oh, he should have scored that goal," and it was predominantly Gooners in the comments, in my replies. What a bad signing! What a bad signing! And for me, I sort of look at it like I'd be much more annoyed if Anthony wasn't in the positions to score. Wasn't in. For me, there's something to work on. I'm not going to panic because I'm trusting who we have as manager and the fact that we're probably still going to see the end of the Glazers. If the Glazers remain, all my optimism goes because I just know what they're going to do to this manager in the end. We have a super chat here from my guy Josh who says, how does everyone think we can play without Rashford? I'm confident in the managers to get the best out of these players. Sancho to cook with Martial. From your point of view, Spice, how do you think we'll line up now without Rashford?
Oh, to To be fair, it's going to be a big miss if he actually is injured and he won't be able to play next week against Seville and of course the following weekend in the Premier League. I don't know, because with Weghorst up front, it's the service that we've been providing him, and at times I feel like we're not looking for Weghorst in the right positions. Giving him balls to his feet, crossing the ball in, and getting a clear path at goal. So it'll be a bit different. I feel like Manchester United will struggle to score because we have shown, and it has shown in the past, that we struggle without Rashford. We struggle to get goals without Rashford. He's the only one that's getting the goals in. Apart from today, where we've got a goal for McTomiany and we've got a goal for Martial. I'm glad to see Martial back into the squad because that there could help Manchester United get some goals for the next up-and-coming game without Rashford being in the squad. Manchester United right now probably look like they might be in trouble without Rashford in the squad and will struggle to get some goals in. And I'm worried about that, man. I hope that Weghorst, we can find him and get some goals in him because he needs some goals. We know that.
I hear that. What's your take on it, Paul?
I think he'll just switch tacks. I think he'll start playing Martial from the start, and then bring on Verkois. And yes, Rashford is getting us a lot of goals, but if you look at Martial's goal today, he was calm, he was collective, and he hit the target. He still has that instinct about being calm about him. I'm not so much worried, as in it will be more if Martial can stay fit. So you bring him on, start in the game, you get 1-2 goals in the first half, you bring him off at half time, depending on how long the Rashford injury is. But Martial, he's going to be hungry, he's going to be wanting to prove himself, and that's inviolable when you're in that last stretch of the season, or you're down to players. You have somebody else that's going to come in and want to prove himself, want to basically get back to scoring ways. So I think I'm worried slightly, but not as much as I would think, because I don't think it'll be Verkois. I think he'll start Martial a lot more games now.
Yeah, and hopefully Martial can stay fit and everything else. But with Casemiro back, as this comment here from David says, Eriksen too, he thinks we're getting third, and I think a lot of people would agree. Roy here says 6 points got us back in the hunt for a Champions League football. Come on. Look, I was very confident in these 6 points, and I really do believe we'll be Nottingham Forest away from home as well. They're really not playing well. Managers hanging on by a thread. But we got dragged back into this race because it was a combination of 3 ball performances and not winning in 3, but missing those 2 games because of the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup final. That success kind of gave everybody else 6 points on us, and we've kind of been dragged back into it. But listen, Newcastle are away to Brentford today, which is hard. Spurs are playing Brighton. Look, by the end of the day, we could be sitting in third with a game in hand over most, going away to Forest next. And proper Man United fans, and I don't wish to call people out, the ones that didn't lift their skirts for rivals after a couple of bad results, I think we all believe we'd get back to winning ways. We know we're not the finished article. There's things to criticize, but there was so much over-indexing, in my opinion, from people because of a handful of bad performances. You fast forward a week from the Newcastle game, and we know we need to improve away from home, but that's literally it. More clinicalness and better away from home. And both those things come through one thing for me, the transfer market. That's essentially where it's going to come from. And there'll be a handful of players, maybe Anthony, Garnacho, Sancho's consistency maybe, that will improve. The rest of it we're buying. McTomiany isn't going to play like this week in, week out. Fred is what Fred is as well. Like, most of the squad is what it is. And I think United fans just need to kind of, just relax a bit. Nabil says, question, you want a player who plays simple passes 10 out of 10 and creates 1 or 0 chances, or creates 3 from 10 clear chances, but loses the ball 6 in 10. These folks are playing dumb. No wonder you may like Scotty. Yeah, I mean, what people want is someone that never gives the ball away and creates chances, but I don't think it's possible. If I'm being honest, I don't think that player exists in any capacity at all. Dizzy's just joined us now as well, late in the day. Man's on his holidays. How you doing, bro?
And I'm doing well. I've watched both games. I haven't been able to to be in the streams, but man, this is exactly where United need to be. We are the 3rd best team in the season, and that is without a doubt. I think if Newcastle finished 3rd, I don't think it's warranted. Spurs managed to squeak into top 4, again, don't think it's warranted. We played Everton off the park. It was comfortable. It was great. And you know what? I'm a happy guy, man. The sun's out here. I'm in Spain and shit. It's all good.
I like that. I agree with you. I do think we've been the third best team in the country this year, and the league table doesn't lie. But when it's Man United, it will be. The headlines tomorrow and the Talk Sports, they'll all be talking about the lack of clinical edge. What happens without Rashford now? That's going to be the focus, not United have 1-2 on the bounce. You know, by the way, we were being ridiculed last week because we were only 3 points ahead of Ralph Ragnick's total last year. We're now 9 points ahead. Is anybody going to talk about that now?
Yeah. Make sure you say that.
In 2 games less. Yeah, this is the
People
problem
love
with that.
leaving that out. They loved leaving that out. They said we were up 3 points on Ralph Ragnick's teams last year, but they completely dismissed that it was 2 more games that we played last year compared to this year. So I never really made much of it. I losing to Newcastle, I was just watching the game. I'm like, disappointing. Got over it, moved on with my day. I'm like, we'll win next game anyways. Who we're playing, Everton, Brentford. It wasn't really a big deal for me. We talked last game after the Brentford game as well. If you remember, we touched on Weghorst because you were talking about the signings and we're going to change this player in the summer. I wrapped it up in 2 minutes. I was like, listen, I'm not going to talk about Weghorst for more than 2 minutes because I explained this guy's an emergency signing. He's not going to be here in the summer. You wake up today, they're saying the news that Man United decided they're not going to offer Weghorst a contract.
By the way, to break it to you, Brentford have gone 1-0 up against Newcastle United. But no, you're right. They did over-index it. They absolutely over-indexed the Newcastle defeat. But this is the thing. We know we need to improve our form away from home. 110%. By the way, I'm looking away while I'm talking because there's a potential handball here for a penalty for Brighton, but they're just looking at it now. I ain't got the commentary on, so I can't hear. Remember, NordVPN enables me to watch 3 o'clock games, and my streams, these things are banging. Anyway, people over-indexed it, and like me as a United fan, I didn't mind it from rivals in the media. It was the Man United fans that bent over and joined in with it, where I'm like, why are you guys? But I kind of get sometimes you've got to be constructive about your team, but when your team's doing well and you're in a good space and you're growing, even if the media pull on something you kind of think there's a little bit of truth in that, why are you throwing petrol on that fire when it doesn't need to be said?
Yeah, I'll say this though. I'll say this. As far as United goes, we have definitely, like, now that the season's kind of winding down, we've definitely dropped some points in games that we should have won. We've lost games that realistically we didn't show up. We were sloppy. We were played off the park. The other teams, like the Newcastle game, they showed more intensity. They were more with it. But again, this is where United we all expected us to be. This is the first year of a rebuild, and we're building something for the future. This season was never going to be a title challenging season. This wasn't going to be it's trophies or bust kind of season. So we kind of expected that we were going to lose these games. So for me, it's kind of funny seeing all the overreaction when we lose the games that, in hindsight, we're always going to drop points here and there anyway.
No, Dizzy, don't forget, they predicted us outside the top 4. And now when we dropped from 3rd to 4th for 1 week, people panicked and start talking about us. So how did you tell us we're going to finish outside the top 4? And you said this is a rebuild and all that, and we all expected it. And I still believe we kind of overachieved based on what rivals said. Don't forget what I said. I'm a Man United fan. You might think I'm biased. You told me I'll finish outside the top 4. But then the minute we go from 3rd to 4th, it's a crisis. All hell is breaking loose. The team is terrible. The signings, this and that. Didn't really like. This is why, as I said, I didn't really make much of it. I knew where we're moving, the direction we're moving in. I see how the team improved. Even when they tried to tell me 3 points over Ralph Ragnick's team last year, if you watch the games, you know the difference between last year and this year is day and night. Completely different team, completely different mentality. We've won points this year that we would have never won last year. So rivals can talk. It's not really a big deal for me.
So go on, Paul.
Sorry, I was just going to say to talk about with the Ragnick comments and about the points difference. It's what nobody takes into account. Almost everybody said last year that our midfield is not good enough. We don't have the players to do an effective midfield. Ten Hag fixed that by bringing in Casemiro and Eriksen. And the second you lose them for a couple of games, and then everybody's attacking Ten Hag.
Exactly.
Well, if he's lost the players that he's brought in to fix the problems that everybody could see, and then he loses them players, everybody's going to expect a slip in form. That's going to be standard, on top of how many games we've actually played this season as well. It is the first season. We have got a good, maybe you would say, 14, 15 players that you would be happy to keep that that you could say could do a job, but there's still so many improvements. So when you lose 2 or 3 of your best players, you're going to have a drop off. That's obvious.
And exactly, and players the managers brought in to improve the team. And Ragnick's the only manager I've seen the mainstream media take signings of previous managers and say, well, you should be getting a tune out of them. No one did it to Klopp. No, by the way, Klopp's team only a year prior nearly won the Premier League. Let's get that straight. They nearly won the Prem a year and 3 months prior, right? Arteta is not attacked for all the money that Wenger and Unai Emery spent and wasted in the 3 to 4 years. But I've seen like stats of Man United versus City put up based on when Pep joined. So it's put together all the spending Man United did like 3, 4, 5 years before our manager arrived. And it's like, why? I've never seen that done before. The over-indexing. By the way, we've had Eriksen missing now for 16 games. We've won 11 of them. We've had of those 16 games, we've won 11 of them. Of those 11 wins, Casemiro has missed 6 of those games.
Is that league or all comps?
All comps. So for me, what I'm so proud of when it comes to this team and why I didn't panic. 1-0 Tottenham, by the way. Son just scored. What I'm not panicking about is the fact that I've seen a lot of clubs this season, last season gone by. They lose 1 or 2 players to injury, and there's a big excuse as to why they're not achieving what their expectations were that season. So if they should have been in the title race, okay for us not to win it. We should be in the top 4. It's okay because we had this midfielder out, or we had this striker out, or this defender out. Man United have had as many injury problems as everybody, and yet we've still overachieved. That's why I'll criticize Ten Hag for his mistakes. I'm not going to go over the top because I don't know if you took Arsenal right now, and for the last 16 games, you took out, for the majority of those games, you take out Partey and Xhaka. Are they winning 11 of 16 games without those two? It's not a dig at Arsenal. It's a compliment to Man United and how we've stepped up. Yes, we've got to improve, but we're going to do that in the transfer market in the summer. 4 or 5 new players, better quality than we've got now, are coming in. 4 or 5 are going to leave. It's going to be another year of this manager having a pre-season, drilling in his system. We're going to go to another level. And next year, what you'll see is more clinical edge in front of goal to kill games off, and we'll be better away from home against the top teams. If we improve on those 2 things, that's the definition of a title race. We've already got one of the best home forms in the league. That will improve. We suddenly add an extra 3 or 4 wins, just an extra 3 or 4 wins away from home this season. We're in a title race. We're not that far away. And that's why I don't think it's right to panic. Just on these super chats here, this one says, can a player stand on all 4s and stop the ball with his arm right? Seems like it. There's no handball. This is twice we haven't had penalties for that at Man United. It's
There's a reason for that, Terry. There is a reason for that.
What's the reason?
If the referee doesn't blow for it and doesn't give the penalty, if the player's falling down and he's got his hands on the ground, VAR can't go back and look at it.
That's crazy.
They brought in a rule at the start that said if a player's falling down and he uses his hands to stop them falling and the ball touches, VAR can't go back and look at it. But if the referee blows for it, he can give it. It's a messed up rule that they've messed up. So VAR can't actually look at it.
That's crazy.
I don't think that was fair though. That penalty shout, that handball, there was enough genuine and honest, how can I put it, mistake. There was a genuine mistake there in the sense of his hand was already down. There was no intent, in my opinion. I don't think Coleman had intent. I think it's just hit his hand whilst he's there. Now, of course, if you're being literal, of course it's handball. The ball's hit his hand. But when you look at the notion of how it happened, that's a very, very unfortunate thing. I wouldn't have been happy to accept that. Even though as a United fan, I wouldn't have been happy to accept that because we've had many this season where we should have had them. And I've called, I've been honest and said we should have. Today that to me wasn't a penalty.
I hear
Definitely
not. United fans just need to calm down and relax. Just the fact that Ten Hag is getting a tune out of this team is amazing. Trust the manager. Completely agree. He also says Martial hasn't played a lot, but he has scored when he has played. Martial would have scored more if he listen. If Martial was fit this season, I think I don't know if he'd have as many goals as Rashford, but he'd have a lot of goals because when he's played, he scored. That's right. Debbie here says, this would be great, but I just remember the owners. Are the Glazers gone already? Soon. It's happening soon. Happening soon. It really is. Boys, I want to thank you all for tuning in. I really, really do. Viewers, please make sure you hit the like button before you leave. Make sure you're subscribing to the Football Terrace as well. Very, very important to us. that you get that done. We're live after the Chelsea and the Spurs games this afternoon. Spurs winning 1-0, as you can see. Hoping for a little bit of Brentford magic today. Just take a little bit more pressure off Man United. Listen, Sunshine, Dizzy, Spice, Staffy and Paul. That is like a boy band when you literally.
I haven't got the hair for a boy band anymore, Terry. I need to go and see your guy.
Yeah.
You look like one of those boy bands that was massive in the 90s. It's all old now.
Yeah, reunion thing.
You know what I'm saying? Listen, everyone who's tuned in, thank you. Take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you.